Hi, welcome back. My name's Kristen. I'm continuing this conversation about alcohol problems. I wanted to pick up sort of where I left off in the last video I made, which was about an important shift I've noticed people really benefit from making if they're trying to abstain from alcohol, if they've determined that they need to do that. And that's the shift from going from what we could call a contingent sense of self-worth and value to a non-contingent or an inherent sense of value. So that just means, do we live our lives believing that we earn our value or worthiness, that we have to prove to ourselves and others that we're good or worthy or valuable or lovable? Do we seek approval outside of ourselves to feel any kind of sense of self-worth? Are we a people pleaser? Are we very competitive because we believe we have to be the best in order to have any worth at all? Or possibly in this realm of, what would need to shift. It could be just a sense of worthlessness, okay, that the person may feel they can't even earn any value or lovableness or anything like that, or compassion, because perhaps they feel too ashamed of something. And the shift needs to be made into that non-contingent or inherent sense of self-worth, where the person lives their life feeling valuable just as they are. They are able to hold themselves in a compassionate feeling state. They care about themselves. It helps them take better care of themselves, forgive themselves for past mistakes and things. And this is it makes a huge difference in terms of someone's ability to maintain sobriety long term. And so I spoke of that in the last video, but I wanted to talk about why it is that that idea does factor in to someone's ability to recover based on what we understand about the brain changes that take place in a human body after there's been, long-standing alcohol use and ever increasing alcohol use. So just as a reminder, this is a progressive process. When someone develops a high attachment to alcohol as a solution to how they're feeling or stress or other things, they develop an addiction to it. They no matter how much they try to control it or manage it or stop, they don't seem to be able to do that. And so this is just a line I use to just show that visually, that someone starts off drinking. There's obviously they're not drinking a lot yet, but then over time the amount increases, the frequency increases, the difficulties start to increase, the problems the habit causes increases. There's lack of ability to control it or manage it, no matter how much they try, no matter what their intentions are during this progression, not especially, but in this area, it's more of a psychological, emotional addiction or dependence. But there is a threshold a person crosses after whatever, when their body, it makes like a real serious shift, where it becomes physically dependent on alcohol to maintain its set point, its homeostasis, because that's what this is about. Really, the body is always trying to maintain a nice balance between, of the nervous system in terms of, stress and relaxation. And the body becomes dependent on alcohol to do that. So then this is the progression. It moves in one direction, and I wanted to explain the brain changes that are part of that, why there is a progression, why it's almost always just that direction and just getting worse over time. So this is a line showing the idea of how the nervous system works, that we have two parts to the nervous system. There's the sympathetic. This is what's responsible for mobilizing energy for like fight or flight or freeze, perhaps, we've gotten a more nuanced understanding of it. But for this talk, let's just say fight or flight. We all know what that means, and the sympathetic nervous system, or part of the nervous system, will mobilize energy and get us to act quickly or respond by giving us a sense of stress and urgency. So if there's a fire in the house, our body is activated. Its energy goes up. We feel it, and we are able to run as fast as we can out of the house, or say automatically jump out of the way of a car that's about to hit us. So we need that for our survival here. And then the other part of the nervous system, the parasympathetic, is more about rest and repair and digestion and things like that. It's more about conserving energy, and it's also extremely important. But the nervous system, the body, to function healthfully, it needs to be balanced. And so it starts to learn from when we're born. We are learning always. The body-mind unit here is learning about our environment, what's important, what's necessary for our survival. We start to develop beliefs about how to survive, and then the body will create a set point for where it's like, okay, we're balanced. We're balanced between the stress response. There's a stress response, and there's and then we have this more parasympathetic relaxation, keeping it in balance. Now, so the stress response that's there in our bodies and the dopamine system, or the reward system, are what begin to get changed as a person continues to drink. So this relates to my former video, because let's just say you were made quite vulnerable to developing an alcohol problem because of what I had mentioned earlier about perhaps you don't feel worthy, or perhaps you feel you must always be performing, or getting things perfect, or people pleasing. And so in that state, if you were raised in a unpredictable environment that was high stress all the time, chaotic, your nervous system is most likely not going to have this nice homeostasis here, balanced, okay? Because your environment doesn't allow for that, according to your brain and what you've learned in your body mind, okay? So your set point is possibly, let's say it's over there, okay? So this is called an allostatic set point, meaning it's not ideal, but it's necessary for the conditions, basically. And this basically puts a person in a more chronic, you're having more of the chemicals being released all the time of stress, and maybe staying hypervigilant, alert. And so there's less rest and repair going on. And this doesn't feel comfortable. Okay, so if that was you, you're going to be very vulnerable to alcohol, because why? Well, when we drink alcohol, it makes us relax, right? It has a sedative effect. It has a numbing effect. If you've lived a childhood or a life with many experiences that caused you to be more leaning towards the sympathetic nervous system all the time, you can't relax. And then plus, if you are a people pleaser or a perfectionist, you can't relax. There's no relaxation allowed in your belief system. So when you then take in alcohol, your stress response is like kind of chronically at a higher level. And then when you take in alcohol, your reward system, the dopamine system, which is for the purpose of telling you when to pay attention to something you did that alleviated a problem, that helped you not feel so stressed, or even something like, it's active all the time. Like, so if I feel the stress of hunger and I smell food, my brain is going to produce that dopamine, which causes a pleasurable feeling, but it's a motivating feeling. So, um, when you first take in alcohol, if you've been very highly stressed as a child, that experience is going to be marked as significant, and you're going to want to repeat it. The brain will have given you a lot of dopamine. It will give you a sense of satisfaction. It'll cause you to remember that because it was a solution to the problem of feeling bad all the time. And so that's like one of the first changes that starts to happen. And then say you repeat and repeat the intake of the alcohol. What will start to change is your dopamine system, the reward system, will continue to give you more dopamine when you drink than it did before, because now it's getting reinforced, you see. It will also start to give you less dopamine when you do just all the natural things in life that already provide you some enjoyment or satisfaction or pleasure or what have you. So now, over time, if you've been drinking for a number of years, you get less satisfaction out of regular life than you do from this thing that sort of starts to become this one solution, this one way to feel better. At first, it feels better, and then it feels good, and so it's enjoyable to drink. But then what happens is it starts to become more like a need. I need alcohol to feel normal now, because as that reward system is changing, so is the stress response system. I'm just going to check out my notes here so I can make sure I'm saying this properly. So, yeah, basically, the stress response becomes more dysregulated. So you were already perhaps vulnerable in your life, but now this is going to start, your set point is going to start to move more over here, and you're going to have even less room for error, in a sense. Since you're not getting as much dopamine from that reward system in general when you're not drinking, now, guess what? You feel more stressed by everything. You feel more uncomfortable. You feel more anxious. Your body has started to, the brain has started to say, well, alcohol's going in, it's causing that relaxation, so I don't need to produce as much relaxation chemistry in your body. So then when you're not drinking, now you're feeling even worse than you did before, because the body is expecting the artificial reward to go in there, or the artificial relaxation mechanism, so it's expecting it. And then, so you can see how when that all starts to happen, the brain, and now it's literally, the brain is changing. And now how you feel, since, you're just going about your life trying to get by, and you don't realize, no, it's not like someone's sitting there with a textbook and teaching you this as you're drinking, right, over the years. But you're having an experience that is caused by these changes. And the experience feels very real to you, obviously. If you're feeling higher stress, higher anxiety, you're not seeing options for solutions in terms of being able to enjoy life anymore, because now your brain has tagged alcohol as supremely special, and it's that one thing that you must go get. And that dopamine system is going to be always, it's going to be motivating you now more so, because what'll happen is, as some years have gone by and you've reinforced this and reinforced this, your dopamine system will now throw dopamine out there when you just see cues in your environment. So say you're driving past the liquor store, you get a hit of dopamine. That motivates you. It feels good, and it motivates you to go get the solution. So now there's all this thinking about it, or there's all this noticing about it and paying attention to the idea of alcohol. So you're having that experience, and it's very real, and it's very vivid to you. And you don't understand that there's been all these literal physiological changes in your body that have now caused you to think in a very specific way about alcohol. You think that's just you, and you're going to come up with all kinds of explanations as to why it is that you must drink. But so that's about, I think that's good for now, and I want to then have a video that talks about why it is that you can repair these changes in the brain and body, absolutely. And so you don't need to feel hopeless about that. And so I'll talk about that in another video. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for